All right, you maggots, listen up. All right, now, as you might know, one of my other hobbies is I keep guppies. And the 20-gallon long has been up for 10 years, had live plants and everything. And then it did a crash. Um, what did I say, about a year and a half, it did a crash. I had some snails in there, Malaysian trumpet snails, and lots of guppies. Now, as you can see, this there are more guppies alive now than when I first started with 6 of them. At one point, the tank was just loaded with guppies, and the bio load, it just peaks out. And you let nature take its course, it balances out. One of the things that was wrong with the tank was I had those Malaysian trumpet snails, and they burrow into the gravel, and then they poop in there. But the tank, when you use regular gravel, depending on the bio load, you get about a year and a half before you got to tear the tank down. Some people get more. It depends on how heavy you feed the fish. That's the thing, because what kills a fish tank is poop. That's where all the problems start. Your ammonia levels, all the nitrate levels, it all comes down to you feed the fish, they poop. The poop has to be converted. The plants feed off what the conversion is, nitrites, nitrates. But at some point, you notice the plants aren't growing. They're starting to slow down. You haven't changed the amount of light. You know the light is putting out the same amount of light. You've done your water changes. And you got an old tank syndrome starting to go. And it's from the gravel. Now, the guppies are in a rimless tank. It's one of those nano tanks. And what you can see the sponge. Let's see in the filter. Yeah, it's got a sponge filter on the intake of the waterfall type filter. And down in the bottom of the tank is the heater. And this is all the equipment from the other tank. See, what I did was I ran this filter in the other tank, and I stirred the gravel so the sponge filter would get loaded up with the bacteria from the other tank. And then I took water from the other tank and moved it over to here. And then I took the heater and put it over here and made sure that this tank is the same temperature as the other tank, same water, same bacterial load. And then I started moving the fish over, and that's what they are. And I didn't lose any. That's the way to really do it. So now what's going on? Let's see if we get it in frame. Okay, that looks like, let me see if it's focused. I don't have an assistant to make sure everything's focused. All right, looks like mounds of dough in there, but that's actually play sand. And play sand, when it's wet, you can actually sculpture. Like if you ever see people do castles at the shore, when the sand is wet, very fine sand when it's wet, it actually sticks to itself. And that's what you're seeing. I washed this sand. I did it the hard way because my outside spigot isn't working correctly. I'll say froze up, but someone says it's not cold enough to freeze. But the mechanism in the outside spigot is stuck. So I had to rinse this gravel or this sand off in a little bucket, and then when the water comes off, you put the water in there, you swish it around, you dump that water into another bucket, and you fill the washing bucket again. You keep doing it till the gravel or the sand is clean, and then you go outside and dump the bucket. You don't want to put that water down your sink because very fine gravel, a lot of what floats will only float for like a minute and a half, and then it sinks. So it's a very fine sand that will suspend itself in the water, but after a minute, it's back on the bottom. So if you start dumping the play sand overflow as you're swishing it and washing it, that's going to clog your drain. So it takes extra long time. Now, if I had a working spigot outside, I could have used a 5-gallon bucket. I probably could have been done in less than a half hour, but it didn't go that way. But this new system here, it's like a dirted system. The substrate is play sand. It's going to have ostracal. Gonna have this stuff, Osteocote, and then I got the tablets from eBay. You take the Osteocote and you put it in the tablets and close them up. Stick them down in the substrate after it's all leveled out. And then 3 months later, you're putting more capsules down in the substrate. So instead of having dirt down below that you put all kinds of stuff in before you start, I'm strictly going, I won't say organic, we're going chemical. In other words, the sand keeps stuff from getting down into it, and there won't be any Malaysian trumpet snails. So I should get 5 years out of this tank. That's what I'm shooting for. And I'm going to cut back on the amount of food that I feed the guppies. See, you tend to, when you see a bunch of babies swimming around early in the morning, you tend to put extra food in there, thinking that the babies will get some, which they do. But also what gets is the bacteria in the tank. In the other case, snails, which cause overpopulation of snails. It also causes more algae to grow in the tank if you overfeed the fish. It all comes down to the poop. So if you take a tank and you put like sand substrate in there, and then you deep feed it with was it Osteocote, Osmocote, you can grow really good plants, and you don't have to worry about algae as much as if when you have fish in there and you add food. It's all a balance. But I just wanted to tell you, after the tank, a year and a half, you'll start to notice a big difference. And other people say, well, it's doing this. I'm getting algae. I'm getting the blue-green. You get this blue algae that like hangs off the plants. And you didn't get that. When you first set the tank up, you get like brown algae, which is a diatom from the water system. And then the next will be some green algae, which is good. And then if you got good plant growth, you'll see the algae on the side of the tank starts to drop back, and your plants start to zoom forward. And that's when you got the tank going good. Now, the first thing when you start getting algae, you cut your exposure of light back, or the intensity. I can do both. I can change the amount of time with my Harbor Freight timer. I also have a dimmer attachment that goes on my power supply. I can dim the LED lights. But in other words, this time I should go past a year and a half. I know what I did wrong the first time, and it was going great guns. And then I started reading stuff. And you want to find really bad information about a hobby, check out tropical fish. You have 30 or 40 people asking, can you use play sand in a tank? And you always got the one guy that doesn't read any of the messages, and he'll say, that sand will get up in the impeller of the filter and it'll ruin it. How does that happen? See, and then there's a coating on the sand that they put on, and it'll kill the fish. Messages. People are saying which sand to use. Now, the sand became a problem here. Everybody seemed to be out of sand, so I went online and I bought a bag of play sand, 50-pound bag, and with shipping and handling and delivered to my door, it was $46. Now, on a good day, you can go into Lowe's and you can get that same bag of sand for about $8. But I wanted to move this forward. See, I'm trying to get everything in my life caught up. And one of the things, I kept walking by this fish tank and seeing that it has peaked out. And it only looked like there maybe was 12 guppies left. But as you can see, there's more than 12. And they're from the original group that was 10 years old. So in other words, that's probably the 50th generation of guppy. And they're red fancy tail guppies, whatever Petco had. I think I got a few females left, a lot of males. Normally I think the males would die off in the nonsense, but we're still rocking and rolling. And I do a little bit each day on this thing. And part of the day is, ordering a hinge for the top cover of the fish tank. The hinge broke, and it was $22. Amazon wanted $50, same hinge. And in it says it's 36 inches long. I only need 29, so I got to cut it. When I got it, it was 29. So it's just so much fun when you sit there and you go back and forth ordering stuff. And then for plants, I went with these. I've went with these once before. They do work. Now this is a Rosetta sword, a Rossetti sword, whatever. And then I have an Amazon sword. I know the leaves die off and drop off. I went through all this once before. And then I have some, I think it's Sagittarius coming from a guy in the big state, where everything's bigger. I ordered it, and he took my money, but he still hasn't filled the order. But by tonight, I should have that sand leveled off and water in the tank up to a certain height. So those two plants, I can put those in, and well, before I do that, I'll put the heater in and get the tank warming up, the sand and the water itself before I put the plant in, and then I'll put my tablets in, and then the plants, and then hopefully, and then the light. I put the light on, and we'll set the timer. We go with 8 hours first, and see what happens. And if I have to, when you have 8 hours, algae's not as bad, but you get low plant growth. And there's a happy medium, and it all has to do with how much you feed the fish, because the poop is what puts extra nutrients into the water. And when the fish pee too, they pee ammonia, and the ammonia gets picked up by the plants. Nitrates. Read up on it. It's a really good hobby. I've been doing reading about tropical fish, and it's still a fairly good hobby. It's not like the radio hobby and some of the other hobbies. I won't mention the other ones. They're dying off. Tropical fish, when I went to the store, they did have the plants in the tubes. The one store that has live plants in a tank, it looked like something got in there and chewed them all up. So they haven't had a shipment of live plants that you can pick the ones out you want. So I said, well, let me get 2 of the tube plants, and they're not cheap. They're like $6.99 each. The tropical fish hobby is not cheap. Anytime you buy a replacement part, it's really bad. Now, just look at this mat. Now, this is real fine. If you know what Scotch Brite is, this is what I use to scrub the algae off the tank, using the razor blade, using this. I see here I still have some calcium on there. But in other words, you want just the front screen of the tank to be the cleanest. The back and the sides, you want algae on that. That helps balance the system out. I think that's it. All right, that's it.